All right, the plan is to get a 139 Designs sled wrap installed on my dad's 858. This sled wrap was supposed to go on before the 2025 King of the Mountain race, but I just ran out of time. I have time now, so what I'll do is kind of go through just the initial process and what I do for installing a wrap. Once I get rolling, I'm gonna do a little bit of multitasking, and I'm gonna go over my favorite race sled that I've ridden since I started racing in 2017. Right out of the gate, I like to cut out the pieces that I'm working with. I'll just use a pair of scissors and slice it out. It's just easier to bring this over instead of having to go back and forth from the table with the wrap on it to over here, and it just seems so much easier to work with peeling pieces off and putting them on the sled. I use rubbing alcohol, isopropyl rubbing alcohol, to just clean the area that I'm gonna be working in. I basically clean the whole sled in this stuff. This stuff does a great job at removing any dirt or oils or impurities on the plastic. Make sure that the wrap sticks nicely. And then I have an installation solution. This is actually from Ride Wrap, which is a mountain bike 3M protection company. I had extra left over, and so I've just had this bottle that hopefully I don't use all this today, but I've had this bottle kind of sitting around, and I'm gonna use it, and I've used it in the past for today's installation, where I spray it on the sled and on the wrap, and it helps with aligning them nicely. And then I'll use a microfiber cloth to kind of squeegee out water and get the wrap to apply. I'm also going to use some heat too. Heat does a great job with just getting the wrap to stick initially. 139 Designs does sell an installation kit. You can check that out on their website. This is just more of convenience for me and something that I had and figured I would just use it. So I'm gonna make things simple in regard to going over my favorite race sleds by just picking a top three. I can pick three right out off the top of my head that just come to mind from over the years that I've really enjoyed to ride. And so I'll start with my third favorite one would be the very first sled that we got through the race department, which was back in 2016 or 2017, and that was the 2017 600 RXC. It was all gray, came with very minimalist design graphics, and that sled was fast and fun, and it still serves to be. It's gone through a couple other people. I think Zach Priv currently has it at the time that this video is recorded. It came with a really sticky Cobra track. That was the first time we've ever had Cobra track. It was just built for terrain racing. It did so well. Pretty loud out here. I'm gonna close the garage door. When I first started racing, we primarily did terrain races. I actually don't even think we did an ice race my very first year. I think there was one on the schedule, but we just didn't go because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what we were doing at the time. That sled just loved the bumps. The Fox QS3s that came on it had tons of adjustability, and that was both compression and rebound. Pretty durable too. I had broken some small stuff on it just from absolutely launching the thing, which that was actually one of the very first sleds that I got some actual serious airtime on. And there's a cool video, slow-mo, that was kind of one of the first videos that ever like took off on my social media, but also it was like a cool video of me launching, and there's Greg Nichols fist pumping his hands in the air. And that was at West Glover, where they actually unintentionally built a massive kicker. And I think there was a couple other racers that were hitting that kicker, but for the most part, I was the only one absolutely sending it. And I was in semi-pro at the time, and I believe that was 2018. That was after my sport year. But the very first year, that sled was just so fun to ride, so fast. That one, I can't remember if it had, I think that had team clutches on it, but that thing just engaged so hard. It engaged really high too in RPMs, but it felt like a cross country or a snowcross sled in disguise as a cross country sled. So second race sled would have to be our 2022. And so the 2017 and the 2022 are both the Pro Cross chassis, but the 2022, we made some pretty dang good memories together, me and that 2022. From the King of the Mountain to going through COVID, actually putting in a legit ice setup for the first time. And that sled too just felt so fast. It felt more trail oriented in comparison to the 2017, where the 2017 felt like it sat higher, felt stiffer, better in the bumps, and more nimble when the track was rough. But when just typical trail riding, the 2017 just didn't feel planted. It felt tippier, even with playing around with setup. It just felt taller. Where the 2022, it might have been the newly designed seat, which had a cutout, which we could really hang off the sled and get low. Outside of that seat changes, the other changes were just kind of durability across the board. Again, that sled changed a lot of parts out on it because you break stuff racing. I won my very first race on that sled. So many memories on that. And it's actually in the hands of good friends of ours now who race it, which is awesome. And they're doing really well with it. Last but not least, my absolute favorite sled. It's actually very disassembled here behind me, but my 2024 Catalyst RXC, hands down my favorite sled. Really, I could just say the Catalyst chassis in general, but I made a ton of memories on that 2024. Pretty cool to be, very in the industry and really a part of racing as a new chassis comes out for Articat. But the main thing, and it's kind of like just a reflection of a younger me always wanted in a sled, was something that was like a snowcross sled. Snowcross sleds, and I grew up watching, the peak era of snowcross, but those sleds were just so cool looking. Literally everyone can agree with me on that. The snowcross sleds just look so good. When the new snowcross sled came out in 2018, I was like, oh man, if only there was a cross country sled that looked like that. Lo and behold, 2024, the Catalyst rolls out, and honestly, it looks even better than a snowcross sled in my opinion. Outside of that, it's the most fun sled I have ever ridden. Corner to corner, out on the trails, or racing, really doesn't matter. This sled was just designed to be fun to ride. You're in the action with where you're seated and the design of the cockpit. That 600 engine is so snappy, has so much low and mid-range power, speed, and torque. That's all I got in regard to talking about my favorite race sleds over the past years of racing. Share in the comments what your favorite sled has been, period, throughout your whole life. Doesn't have to be something that you raced or trail rode recently. Basically got the entire front part of the sled installed for the wrap. We're gonna move on to the seat, the gas tank, the tunnel. The tunnel's in 3 pieces, and then the gas tank is kind of smaller pieces, but that's up next. I think it looks so good. I definitely need to do a little bit of a polish or something on it. This is kind of my dad's design. He came up with it. Chris at 139 Designs made it custom. I'm excited to see how it looks when it's fully done. I got both tunnel pieces on each side here, okay? And I just want to point out just a few little kind of things that I've learned in installing these tunnel pieces is you do want to cut them out, which I just showed, which helps kind of line things up, but also you definitely want to get yourself some like little needles. You can see the dog got a hold of this. Some little needles, so when you have these little bubbles or pockets of kind of water, if you're using a solution to apply it, to poke and then push to squirt the water out. You can kind of see this little bubble right there, but it's not going to be perfect. You can see it's kind of wrinkled here. That's from the wrap bunching up around where there was water. It's not going to be perfect. This is going to get chewed up from riding, but there's no massive air bubbles. Honestly, it looks good. This is my second time installing tunnel wrap ever, and this took half the time from the first time I did it, and it looks way better. Just gotta put on the last finishing touch. Ta-da-da! It is done. D-U-N, done. I think the wrap came out awesome. Installation process was solid. This sled plus my cross-country race sled is gonna be on display at the Lancaster Fair tomorrow, actually, by the time this is done filming and uploaded. I'll be hanging out with Granite State Power Equipment at their Articat booth, showing these sleds off, talking about the potential cross-country race that's gonna be happening in New Hampshire this winter, and hoping to just meet up and chat with a bunch of big Articat fans. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.